everyone. We are going to get started. You are in for a treat tonight. We are going to be talking about another compelling conversation about the pursuit of human sustainability through the conduit of empathy. And Tony Wall is the founder of Noēsis. He is a true visionary. Noēsis is a humanitarian group, and it's about really educating the entire planet on change, right? So I'm going to, Tony founded Noēsis a couple years ago in 2019, and it was formed to help the human race achieve sustainability by exposing the evolutionary motivators that combine to influence all modern behavior. So as I said, Tony's the true visionary. He's going to be giving us a lot of amazing information tonight. And then Jack Malley is a board member for Noēsis, and he is going to be our MC this evening. And we're very grateful Jack is here. Jack is also the founder and creative director of M3 Video Agency in New York City. And he's worked with huge organizations like Time Warner and Saatchi. So wonderful to have the two of you here tonight. We are in for a treat, and thank you all to all the attendees, and we'll just continue to let people in as they join us. And I'm going to turn over the reins to Jack.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm here baking in Pompano Beach, Florida here. It's at least 90. They say it's 90. It feels like way hotter than that. So this is our second webinar, and the last webinar we talked about a very fresh, eye-opening concept that Tony calls the human injury, and how the human injury inevitably leads to perpetual conflict. And that's conflict on a micro level in our own lives, and on a macro level on the global stage we see being played out today. Now, today, this seminar, we're going to explore more original concepts like the human injury, concepts that help clarify why, as a species, we seem to be in a perpetual conflict autopilot. Tony calls it evolutionary baggage. And, no matter what we seem to do, even if your name is Gandhi, we can't slow this perpetual conflict avalanche. So, you're in for some enlightening moments and sparks of insight that you can actually carry forward in your own life immediately today after this webinar. So enjoy the show, and we can just get started here let's start at the top. Noēsis, Tony. Noēsis, the word, Greek word. I know you're not Greek, but somehow you found this, what I think is a perfect word that is a match to your mission. So tell us about the word and how it fits your mission.
I will. Thank you very much. But I want to first mention what a wonderful thing you said, an avalanche, you called. And I would like to point something out. Would any human being out there expect to be able to stand up to an avalanche? If the answer is no, then you get an idea of where we're going here. Noēsis is a Greek word. It goes back to Plato, but what it means is the highest attainable level of intellect that is available to the human mind by way of a process. When we bring a process to bear upon anything, and we are using the process properly, we will reach the highest level we're able to by that process. Noēsis is the arrival point to the highest intellect available for us, and we're going to need it.
Yeah, terrific. So in the first seminar or webinar, I mentioned you got into the human injury. Touch on that a little bit, because I think that is central to everything that Noēsis is about.
Thank you. Nobody that was here first or that is here for the second time, the human injury is just 3 words. So are we creating buzz phrases here that are interesting, or are we talking about something that's real? We're talking about something that's very, very real. The shortest way to put it is that human beings are suffering the hangover of a viewable event not just viewable, but viewable in great detail. Once you know where to look, you'll never have to go far to find it. About 10,000 years ago, human beings, in a random development to us, we crossed over from a highly collaborative, cooperative disposition, which allowed us to migrate to all points of the earth from our place of origin in the central plains of Africa, the African Congo Basin. No longer in conjecture there. That brings all people, all human beings onto the same page. We all come to the same place. So at 10,000 years ago, we had gotten to all places in the earth, all points. There was nowhere else to go. What did we do? Well, the only thing that people would know where to go would do. They would gather into larger and larger and larger populations. That would be aided by an agricultural awakening, and that would logically lead to us domesticating large animals and pack animals like dogs to manage these. Our fields of crops would grow bigger and bigger and bigger, again, logically. And now we are no longer migratory, are we? Now we're stationary. So what did we do? We crossed over from a highly collaborative disposition, collaborate or die. That's pretty highly collaborative. Over to behaviors of acquisition. So to be clear, highly collaborative beings that have this need to assist and to be assisted, to help one another. In our DNA, baked into our DNA, we're now commanded to acquire. This was nobody's fault. However, self-interest was, in fact, introduced to the human experience for the first time. Was that anybody's fault? Is that bad? No. It was logical development. Again, we're blaming ourselves for something that happened to us. And our collaborative DNA simply didn't recognize what it was looking at when it was commanded to acquire and then go into self-interested behavior. What would come of that would, in fact, collapse every human culture ever to exist after that was stationary.
Yeah, and the human injury concept is actually in the works to be a book published in the fall, I believe. Is that the schedule for the human injury book?
Yes, the book is coming, the proverbial book. But I want to make a point here that I was asked to write a book a long time ago, but I pointed out that a book wasn't actionable. I wanted to build an actionable group to spend the rest of my life trying to unite all human beings on Earth under the banner of species self-preservation. It's no longer a tough sell that human beings can glimpse the mortality of our species on the horizon. When that doesn't shock anybody anymore, then it's time. It's time for a process to bear upon something we don't understand, but then we very much can now. So the book's secondary. It'll come out in the fall.
Yeah, terrific. Look forward to that. So, that's the human injury. And there's another major theme that I touched on earlier called what you call the evolutionary baggage. And it's central, again, to everything that we see, the behavior of the species today. So expand on that if you could. Evolutionary baggage.
Okay, I'm going to use an awful cliche. My apologies in advance. I say this is where the rubber meets the road for what we do. What do we do here? We are here to quantify the staggering totality of evolutionary influence upon modern behavior. So evolutionary baggage is kind of a vaguely comical way to put it. We're carrying big bags, but no, it's actually quite precise. Human beings fancy that we are born, that we are coming to existence as a blank slate. No, in fact, we are here when we're born. We already have 55, 60,000 separate generations of human beings that came before us.
Yeah, actually, Tony, do you have a graphic? Did I understand you have a graphic to help this?
I do, and I'm going to cue Cindy to put this up to help this along.
Yeah. Oh, terrific. There you go. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, thank you. So I can talk all I want about this, but I figured, hey, why talk? And remember, we are fact-based here. So forget what I tell you. It's about what I can show you. So if we're going to talk about evolutionary baggage, let's show what we're up against, and let's wonder out loud together how we are ever expected, if you will, to beat what we don't know but can now. Here we are. This middle line is obviously linear time, folks. It starts 2 million years ago with Homo erectus on the left there. Now, linear time works for us, doesn't it? Because it's how we think. It works. It looks like this: the past gives way to the present gives way to the future. Clearly, linear time is how we think. So let's think like that. Everything we do in the modern day has an evolutionary trigger. We need to know it. And what are we up against if we don't know it? Well, as you can see, 55,000 generations. That's how many generations of human beings had already were packed into the peaceful and dignified being that arrived 10,000 years ago to every place in the world. The idea that we are a blank slate is certainly defeated by this easily. But never mind on the left, 55,000 generations. I'm trying to explain David and Goliath, but in this case, Goliath wins every time. What do I mean? Well, you see on the right there, that's a red line that starts after 10,000 BC. That's the point, approximately, where human beings began to cross over from collaboration, highly, deeply baked in longings to collaborate, over to behaviors of acquisition and the self-interest that would introduce itself. In fact, not just introduce itself, but would actually intrude upon the human experience. 200 generations later, 10,000 years, why do we wonder in any way why every single thing around us looks so wrong? Here's why. It is so wrong, in fact, and we can know this with data we never, ever had. 200 generations of swept along human beings, not ever understanding a psychic injury that we can now view, acting vaguely unnaturally relative to our collaborative DNA. 200 generations isn't going to win that battle against 55,000 generations. That's an easy sell. So this is a good way to explain what we're up against and how in the world can we expect ourselves to defeat the immensity of this. Okay, so drop down to the bottom if you would. I've drawn the battle here that's going on in the human mind. And if anybody can show me I'm wrong, I'm happy to hear it. And I would concede it. Collaborative and affiliative behavior of 55,000 generations is exerting itself upon self-interest. Self-interest is pushing back. The two don't recognize one another, do they? Self-interest doesn't feel right in the place that it just doesn't feel right. Why? Because we've created lesser beings. Collaborative and affiliative is all about equality, equal beings rolling along like a wheel. So this is the fight going on. Notice that the blue line above is thicker. Why? Because there's 55,000 generations of humans that want to collaborate, calling to us. We hear it, we feel it, we sense it, but we don't know what it is. But now we do. Everything has arrived at the only place available to a crossover period that was never understood, but now can be. If everything is falling apart around us, be very worried, but don't wonder why. And I want to make a final point here. This peaceful, loving, collaborative being on your left, 55,000 generations, still burns brightly inside of us. It deserves very much to survive. What we've become, by something we can now see clearly, never mind deserves. It can't survive and never has. It's not sustainable. Perpetual conflict is not sustainable. If somebody can argue against that, please do. Please do. So that's what's going on here. We're fighting. We're in a fight. We can't win. The starting gun kills our horse. Let me just get right to it. The very starting gun. Every time we start another failed culture, it tends to look like the old one really quickly. It means that the starting gun kills our horse. How do we ever get to the finish line called human sustainability in a mathematical reality that forbids it? And that's what we do here. We are the mathematical take on the human condition. So there it is, evolutionary baggage. That's what we're up against. What exacerbates that? Well, the injury itself. Not only are we saddled with compulsions and impulses that activate 15 times faster than the thought, not only do we have that, but we also have a psychic injury that we're nursing where lesser beings don't know what that means and will never accept the lesser station assigned to them. So these lesser beings are always at the heart of human failure. I want to explain another thing. We talk about math. We think that we're facing complex social issues. Are we? Human failure occurs in an eerily precise fashion. The nature of precision is that it's a mathematical thing. So we're looking at a constant. We can now see what caused a constant that makes us fail. And that is the crossover period to something our DNA doesn't understand. Okay. And there it is right there.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So like what you're saying, relative to our 55,000 generations of collaborative DNA, we're acting unnaturally.
Thank you. I don't think I could add to that.
Yeah.
Although I would add to that for just for whoever's looking for their sake. Let me be clear. We are in fact acting clinically unnatural relative to 275,000 years of collaborate or die, hit head on with get paid or die. It's a bit major difference here. And where's the blame here? There's no blame. Blame has no utility, nor does it have apply. We're blaming everybody for everything. We take no blame ourselves. What could go wrong here? We're acting every bit like beings that are highly confused. We look upon that being with great empathy. We've arrived at self-loathing. We don't deserve it. We don't. What we've become can't survive. What we are deserves very much to survive.
Yeah, I mean, and sort of piling on in a way. You talk about inertia and how that impact is, brings a kind of its own devastating effect onto the whole process. Talk about that, inertia.
I want to answer Steve. Thank you very much, Steve, for weighing in. Socio-mathematical constant. A lot to unpack there, eh? Now, let me explain. Precision, by its nature, mechanisms, by their nature, are in fact mathematical things. If human beings have always collapsed, if human cultures, there have been 70, they come into being and collapse in an eerily precise way. The precision is what alerts us to the idea that we are a socio-mathematical constant is working on us. We need to find it, and we have. That's the crossover period from collaboration to acquisition. That's the injury. We don't recognize ourselves. And that's the constant. That a constant is reproducible all over the universe. It looks the same every time. 2 + 2 = 4 will never, ever look different no matter where we go in this universe. A human stationary culture that does not understand why it fails must fail. That's a constant. I hope I've answered that. So you were looking for where inertia fits here, Jack. It certainly does. Inertia, again, a mathematical thing, isn't it? This is Newton's first law, or maybe it helps us to talk about the mathematics of human failure rather than circumstances, like we're making choices. No, we're not. Inertia needs an outside force to alter it. Again, Newton's first law. What is the outside force? Well, I can tell you two. Homo erectus appeared in Central Africa 2 million years ago. It would walk this earth for 1.7 million years. What broke up its inertia? Me and you, Homo sapien. Homo sapien fell in about 275,000 years ago in Central Africa. All humans come from the same place. There is no conjecture on this matter, okay? So Homo sapien broke up Homo erectus's inertia. Homo sapien then migrated around the world because she could. And we got busy. What broke up that inertia? 10,000 years ago, what was migrating now crossed over to stationary. Stationary behavior, larger and larger populations, agricultural awakening, larger fields of crops, kicked in, arrived logically to acquisition. There's no fault here. It's a logical arrival place, but not one that works in its present form. So clearly, the crossover from collaborative to migratory is your second altering force that broke up a wandering Homo sapien. Now, 10,000 years ago, stationary cultures, there have been 70 of them. All of them are gone. The pregnant pause is purposeful. All of them are gone. All of them came into being, rose, flourished, decayed, and collapsed in precisely the same fashion, under the same models. This goes back to socio-mathematical constant, one that was never available to us. What do I mean? Well, only 200 years ago did we deduce that we evolved. This necessarily means that every single human culture that ever came into being, major ones, we never even knew that we evolved. That meant that when we came into contact with any other human groups, they may as well have been aliens from outer space to us. Who knew that we all came from the same place? But now we know, don't we? And now we can get something done. We are all the same. And yet we are locked in a mindless conflict for reasons that we can now show. Never mind what we say. It's about what we can show that will keep us in business.
Yeah, right on. That's a fascinating way to see it, that those past failures, they had no idea, they didn't have the clarity of these, scientific.
Let me go further. They were preordained at birth in retrospect to fail, but they didn't know. Nobody knew. This is about blame. I didn't finish this. What is the third inertia? We're still in it. We're not acting naturally relative to our DNA. That is an inertia. We're viewing ourselves with self-loathing. Noēsis views the human race with great empathy, great empathy. We think we've been bad boys and girls. Oh no, we have not. We are swept along by an inertia. An inertia needs an outside force to alter it. We have the outside force. It's called knowledge. It's called human self-discovery with a vast field of crops to harvest called the evolutionary timeline of our species to determine how we got to this awful place. Okay?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned there as well, clarity and empathy together. How do they connect clarity, empathy, human sustainability? What's the connection there?
Thank you. It's a terrific segue. I appreciate it. First of all, I want to stop here. If anybody out there can make an alternative argument, make and defend an alternative argument, I don't challenge you to do so. I beg you to do so. Okay. We've been at this a long time. If we're running nonsense out there, we're going to be out of business. All right. We're here to seek human sustainability. We better roll out something out that's intelligent and that has continuity, or we're done here, and we know it. Okay. So this leads us to the end. Jack, please repeat that.
Yeah. Well, the connection between clarity and empathy.
Anybody who's listening, let me talk to all of you. Today, I imagine you're all professionals. Today and tomorrow and every day of your lives, there will be many times during that day, perhaps 10 or 20, that you will seek clarity. You will seek clarity as a central thing to what you're trying to do. Maybe you're a sales manager and sales are down. You're going to seek clarity as to why that is. It would appear that clarity is central to everything we do every single day. Now, what I just gave you, the information, what we're up against to achieve human sustainability, it's pretty big. It hurts. Let's all say it together. Ouch. All right. Let's get it right out there. Ouch. But we bring no value by soft pedaling these issues. We have clarity now. We have clarity on what we're looking at, how we got here. And we have determined that it's a constant. We beg to be defeated. We beg. So when we understand what's happening to us, clarity transports us from self-loathing to empathy, not just between one another, but a human species that views itself with empathy. What would it choose? It would probably stop and ask itself, what in the world are we doing? We may be the rarest species in the galaxy, and we step over bodies on the way home. Well, Noēsis is going to give that person in the street a hell of a promotion, from a person who made bad decisions up to the rarest creature in the galaxy. That's human rarity. That's what we do here too. We teach human rarity. We value rarity. Oh, do we? We don't value our own. It means we don't understand our own. Clarity is our friend. We don't want to look. We have to look. If we don't want to look, okay, Noēsis will say, thank you for listening, goodbye. When we do, we will commit ourselves to a socio-mathematical reality from which we cannot extract ourselves. We don't have the data, but we do.
Well, you mentioned the human rarity, you call it. Stepping, like, how we mindlessly will step over a homeless guy on the sidewalk without realizing just how special that particular human is and what it took to get to this place. And on your website, you talk about it's called the Fermi paradox. And also related, it's called the Great Filter.
Yeah.
Talk about those two things and how they help us towards clarity.
Thank you. If we're going to seek human sustainability, we would do well to induce human beings to view their rarity. Anything we can do to transport human beings to self-loathing, the idea that we're a scourge. You hear words like this coming up. There's blame there. Blame, judgment, they have no utility. And more than that, they do not apply. Human beings are not flawed. We are gravely injured. We are frightened. We are lonely. We are shamed into privacy by people we call friends who don't know what they're doing. None of us know what we're doing. We don't understand ourselves in any way. And now we can. So look, we go over to the Fermi paradox, and this helps us with human rarity. Our subject matters here are highly diverse. We don't run out of content. You're going to find that out. The Fermi paradox is about human rarity. Enrico Fermi was an Italian astrophysicist who in 1941 or two famously uttered three words: "Where is everybody? Where is everybody?" And when pressed further by his colleagues, he explained the mathematics that he was running in his head. Again, we're social mathematicians here. Theory, we don't have the luxury of that anymore. And he explained this. He said, we live in a galaxy that's 13 billion years old. One sentient species of the past would require only 1 billion years to not only traverse the entire galaxy, but also to colonize it at sublight speed. The math explains that we should have a traffic jam of visitors here by now. Are we looking at lazy aliens, or are we looking at aliens that aren't there? Okay, we're a sentient species. The moment we could reach out into the universe, we did. The moment we could, we did. So would another sentient species. But there's nothing. We call this the Great Silence. The greatest minds in the world have weighed in on this, and all of their interpretations have been reasoned away. But there is one that cannot be reasoned away. It's called the Great Filter. Please take me to task. Look it up. Write it down, look it up. The Fermi paradox, the answer to the paradox, speculates correctly, I think, but that sentient intelligence tends to destroy itself in technological childhood. But I also gently warn that human beings, don't look now, are up against the filter now. And here's another surprising thing. If we were to fail, does that make us flawed? In a cosmic sense, no. It would make us eminently normal. So again, let's stop beating ourselves up. Noēsis has a terrific challenge to the human race. Let's be the first, maybe the first sentient species to make it through the filter. Okay, so it would appear that our rarity is way more exquisite than we ever knew. And if I gave anyone a Monet, you would see it as rare, wouldn't you? And we would all go to Christie's and we would make $100 million and we'd be darn glad of it. There are no exceptions to this. Here's a funny thing. We don't value our own rarity. It means we don't understand it, but Noēsis will take care of that. Thank you.
Yeah, terrific. So the headline of the webinar promoted this concept that empathy can help preserve humanity, and talk a little bit specifically about how does that little process, how does that big process, how does it work out? This concept of empathy, does that mean that if we understand, or as you say, get clarity on the concepts you're laying out here, there will be a natural rise of empathy within the human species, and these perpetual conflict?
I understood.
Does that fall away?
Yeah, perpetual conflict is something we think we can decide out of. No. There are compulsions and impulses, too many to count and too great to defeat. They place us in a conflict. They keep us there. Why? Because they're created by human beings who are misinterpreting their environment severely, not in a casual way. No. We are misinterpreting threats in the modern day, and we would blame ourselves for that. Again, this goes back to 55,000 years of protective mechanisms that aren't designed to think. So they never got the memo when ancient enemies of ours died. So let me be clear. We are answering ancient bells every day. We misinterpret threats out of the gate. What comes back to us are highly elevated, highly misaligned responses. Why? Because if we're misinterpreting a threat, what comes back to us will be a greater will be greater than our threat. Why? To vanquish the threat. So we're coming out of the gate broken right away. We don't understand ourselves, and now we can. And when we do, perpetual conflict looks like we don't deserve to live. No. We're swept along by what I just explained. How can we, if we were laying under the rubble of a hurricane, and somebody was looking and heard our voice, nobody would say, it's your fault that you're laying under 10 feet of what fell on you. Too bad for you. No, that's not what we would do. We would strip every layer away until we saved that person. They are helpless. We are similarly helpless against the totality of evolutionary weight. It's making the rules. We think we're making choices. We are not. We are not. That's why our failures look so eerily similar. Now we have reason to cross over to viewing ourselves as savable because something happened to us, as opposed to something's wrong with us. It's a big, big disparity, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with us at all. We don't know how we got here, and we don't know how we're leaving. What sentient creature would not fear that reality? And then further, would not fear watching the degradation of that reality. So let's stop beating ourselves up here and let's get busy knowing what's knowable. That's what we do. We're going to take it to every corner of the earth. I want to also say another thing, and this is hard. I'm going to say it straight out, vulnerably. It's hard. We're a 501c3. Go to our website and look at the totality of it, the quality of it. We put everything we had into it. We're not coming out half-cocked. We're built to go, and we need help. We are the first group to seek human sustainability, specifically by examining the evolutionary timeline of the human species. We would like to partner with other efforts like climate changes and complete the team, not diminish them, complete the team. They're in the future, we're in the past.
Yeah. So
did that answer your question, Jack?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to, weigh here, a lot coming at us. Let me just jump back a little bit to the 55,000 generations and how you talk about how that sort of baked in certain characteristics, human characteristics into our DNA. And then there was the human injury, and then all hell breaks loose in a sense. How does the concept of free will work in here? Like free will, don't we as a species have a sense of free will where we're able to overcome these generations of, baked in DNA and.
Completely understood your question. Let me go right straight to this. Can we agree that the strongest person in the world cannot lift 10,000 pounds? Yes, easily. We would, in fact, the strongest person in the world trying to lift 10,000 pounds would probably explode with the stress. Similarly, free will, we get to debate free will, don't we? Because we talked about a being buried under an avalanche of compulsions and impulses that activate faster than the human brain's thinking. They crowd out thinking, in fact. They crowd out thinking that they're in danger. Dangers that don't exist, okay? Does the person under that immeasurable avalanche you said earlier, does he have free will? He may think he does. However, there is one concern, and that is, how do I get out from under this avalanche? Is this free will? I would say that we really can't call it free will. If you're asking whether or not we can decide to turn things around, under no circumstances, let me be clear. Human beings are swept along by what we don't understand. We are not speedboats. We don't have switches on the side of our heads that one day a bell goes off and we act in a sustainable fashion. It doesn't work that way. It's going to take decades to unwind what it took 2 million years to get here.
Yeah.
If that's a hard sell, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
We're looking at it all wrong. We need to look at ourselves with, hey, we're injured. Who among us would not go immediately to the aid of an injured thing, anything? And there it is right there. Why don't we go to our own aid? Clarity is our friend. Why don't we invite our friend in? And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. Let me just read. There's a great question just popped up. I'll just read it word for word. I agree that the cycles and shape-shifting of, it just popped in more, of group versus group that materialize to conflict stem from evolutionary and behavioral psychology that affects us today. On the other hand, these divisions cause real harm. And after history repeating itself, we should know better, quote unquote, now. So how can we end the cycle at the root? What is the answer? Therapy, early childhood education, emotional intelligence, diplomacy. And you see the last
yeah, no, I understand the question. How can we should know better. Let me isolate that. We should know better. We certainly should. However, we don't, not ever. Now, if we hover here, we're wasting every minute of our time. Where there's no logical flow, we should know better and we don't. That means we need to get busy looking for something we can't see. And that would be the crossover period where we began to act unnaturally and where a lesser being was born. You show me a lesser being and I will show you trouble that forms in precise manner, predictable almost to 100%. And I will show you up ahead the collapse of any system that a lesser being finds himself in. We have only one choice for humanity, one choice, and that's capitalism. Okay, but there can be no lesser beings. There will only be necessary beings. And only then will we glimpse sustainability for the first time. Show me again, you show me a diminished human being and I will show you constant trouble. And it's always happened that way and always will until we understand and alter it. Remember, this is an inertia.
Yeah. Yeah. And the end of that question was, what's the answer? And the answer, it sounds to me that you're saying is clarity on these concepts.
Well, he wants more than that. He certainly should. And he certainly deserves it. Here's your answer. We're educators. We don't bring value by running around stages, waving our arms, or we're all going to die. We're not the extinction guys. We're here to avoid what need not be. Let me make that clear. The answer to your question is education about who we are with data we never, ever had before, but do now. I find that interesting. When we need it, it's there. Okay. We have it. It's what we do here. This will take decades. How can we expect what took 10,000 years to degrade to this point, to this cartoon-like point? That's fair. We're acting in cartoon-like fashion. The only arrival place of this injury. So let's get busy unraveling it over the course of decades with the idea of, with the final, the end game being avoiding not extinction. Oh no, it was just something way more dangerous that stalks us. And that would be called commitment to extinction. It's the mathematical point past which, no matter what we do, we could not reverse the reality that we've created for ourselves. It would mean that our species has clocked out. Leaving the building would be a formality and a painful one. I'm going to say with surety. We are not the extinction guys. We're the non-extinction guys. We're here to avoid what need not be by explaining why, without a process to bear, we must collapse into what we can't understand. But now we can. That's where we're going.
That's great, Tony. I'm going to jump back in here. We have a couple of really great questions. I know that Steve asked about just some more details. I know you're writing the book about the human injury, so we only have a little snapshot here. But Steve asks to speak a little bit more about the human injury. What precisely is it?
Thank you for the question. Very, very happy to put a finer point on everything.
And you know what, Tony, I'm sorry to jump in. There's just another component to that. It says, can humans bear the force of the avalanche of clarity and reality?
A good question.
It's a great question.
Great question. Can we bear it? I don't know. We have no choice. Again, this is about clarity. I'm not here. If I'm here to make friends, soft pedal, I have no value. I'm not your guy. You ask a great question. There are population concerns. Can we bring anything to bear upon population? Absolutely not. Who do we think we are? It'll never see the light of day. Might that reality, population itself, bring us to an unmanageable place? With a heavy heart, I admit, yes. But we can't bring anything to bear upon that, any more than we could control a beehive. We go to what we can control. This education, I said it before, ouch, let's all say it together. Ouch, it hurts. Let's get busy unraveling it, because we now have a better chance above zero now, whereas the constant explained that we have no chance. Because of choices we make? No. Because of things that we can now understand that press it down upon us every day. We can't defeat them. We're not going to defeat our own biology. And we don't even understand ourselves. Let's get to do that first. We're going to learn who we are for the first time because we can, and we take it from there. You ask a great question. Commitment to extinction. Can we say that we're going to avoid that even if we're successful? Of course not. Commitment would happen and we wouldn't even know it. We're not that good. Not Noēsis, the human race isn't that good. So this lives in the real world, doesn't it? We would commit if this went on unabated. It's always failed us, these models. Perpetual conflict, there are economic models. They were never solutions. So we got to get busy doing something about it and working it until there's nothing left to work. We either come out as sustainable or we don't. But Noēsis has to exist, or a Noēsis-like entity, or the constant explains what's going to happen to us and not maybe. Again, I've always asked for a competitive argument. You ask a great question. We're up against it. We have clarity.
Thank you, Tony. I know we are coming close to the end of the hour, and I know that you talk a lot about, Noēsis being here for hope and remedy, and that we're educators. So I just wanted to ask, for everyone attending, I wanted to let everyone know that they can subscribe to Noēsis's newsletter, and obviously there's lots of opportunities for volunteering. And Tony, if you could tell the attendees in your own words how everyone can participate, obviously join us at future webinars and things of that nature. But maybe you and Jack can jump in and just share some ways that the attendees can get involved.
I'm a person that just expresses themselves honestly and goes with it. Here it is. This is the hard part. Let me just say it straight out. This is the hard part. Everybody says, this is good stuff. Maybe think this is interesting stuff. Let me go on the website. Oh my gosh, he's right. There's an ocean of continuity here, intelligence. And now he's asking for money. Oh boy, I get it. Listen, we are here. We are here to unite every human on earth they will come to the same place. We're here to unite all of them under what we can unite under. Humans have historically shown the willingness to unite under a common enemy is the end of the most remarkable and unique species in the galaxy. Not common of a problem enough. We're going to find out. So we are built to go. We are actionable, and we need help. We're going to go all over the world. You're not going to see me talking. You're going to see me get on a plane. Okay, this is what I do the rest of my life until I can't do it. Why? Because we look around and nobody else will. Nobody else will. So I'm very privileged, and yet if I've made a case, I hope I have. The four things that we're working on: climate change, pandemic, nuclear, they're all noble, aren't they? Eminently noble. But we may find what's hard that what we forgot to work on was our nature, okay? Our very nature. It's what's always killed us. Perpetual conflict has never, or pardon me, all those other four things that we're working on, we need to get them under control, but none of them has ever destroyed a human culture. None. That distinction belongs to perpetual conflict, period. Perpetual conflict from without, from within. So we are actionable. That's why the book comes next. We are here to take action. We need help. Donate to what we do and then watch what we do. Take us to task. Make us earn it. And so we shall. And so that's the hard part for me. I don't even know how to, I go right to, it's hard to do, but guess what? We have to do it. This is a 501c3. And we ask for your help, and then make us earn it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And I would just, again, encourage everyone to subscribe to the newsletter on the website. We're building a community, and obviously the goal is human sustainability. And as Tony said, I don't think there's anything bigger than that. Jack, any closing words before Tony gives his closing words?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Tony was saying about the mission of the 501c3. In my view, it's actually a media company that Tony is building. It's a media company that's, has a very distinct content and lineup of shows that will be fulfilled just in perpetuity, and we'll be pulling in some more, sources of information as we move forward and grow. So, to put a wrapper or a bow around this gift, it's really, you could look at it as a media channel or media company.
Let me add to that. Yes, you can. It's a fusion, isn't it? It would be a fusion. We know PBS is a media channel, right? Even Fox News is a media channel. So these are media channels. People can get their arms around what a media channel is the point. So what a terrific fusion. We are here as educators, disseminating information about what makes humans do what they do. Now, anybody can report on what we do. Why are we doing this? We want to unite human beings who all come from the same place and who would all fall victim to the same concern under what is now unitable, and that is the preservation of our species, while asking us to give up nothing in the present moment. So this is a fusion of media channel and the concept itself, the idea of human sustainability. There isn't anybody that hasn't looked at this and said, well, where have you been, as opposed to what the heck are you talking about? So clearly there's value here if we are fact-based and we do not deviate. What stands to reason is as risky as we'll get, because why would anybody sit still for that? So that's what we're trying to do. We're building a platform here from which other like-minded people can launch. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and I'd just like to jump in, Tony, because I love when you say, when people ask, what can they do? What can they do right now? I love when you say, notice and be aware. So maybe you can just, close out with that.
Thank you. Boy, am I happy to surprise everybody here. Notice. And you're thinking like, notice? Oh, that's not media enough. Notice. Look, nobody has any problems that they don't first notice. The simplicity, even the comedy of it, it's okay. We try to look. There's a comic take on a lot of things we do. This isn't dark. This isn't a dark undertaking. This is hopeful and remedial. But noticing, I think there's more value to that than this. I mean, after all, every single problem that we've ever had in our lives would need to be noticed first. That's a good constant too. So noticing, seeing things differently from here on, like this. Never mind what I'm looking at. What's driving this behavior? Everything we do in the present day, in fact, has its roots in a past reality, doesn't it? So we may be answering ancient bells. Would that have value for us to know? I would say so. So notice from now on, everything you see, what you think's going on, that's not what's going on. There's something much, much deeper and knowable now. If we're misinterpreting our environments, that would explain a lot as to why peaceful, loving, collaborative human beings find themselves now locked into mindless conflict. And there it is. So noticing helps, doesn't it? I want to make everybody understand it. Noticing isn't just, gee, is that all? It's everything. Because we can't change these models yet, can we? We're not speedboats. This is an aircraft carrier that we're on, and it's got to turn slowly in the water. We ask people to give up their cherished beliefs. If we threaten revenue streams, we'll be out of business fast and furiously, and we know it. We've monetized these models, haven't we? Again, I use these three words a lot, not comically. A fine mess, isn't it? That's fair. We can't change it. Let's notice it, go to work on it, see what happens in 100 years, because that's how long this is going to take. Promising nothing, but at least it's above zero now.
I think those are wonderful closing words. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jack. Thank you to all the attendees and the wonderful questions. We'll be hosting our next event in July, so please stay tuned. We'll be posting it on the website, on our social media, and also on Eventbrite. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody, from the heart. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.